Hello there. This is Welsh ASMR 82. Hey, how you doing? So, quite a relaxed geography ASMR video for you today. I'm just going to flick through the pages of this atlas. And together we're going to calmly and quietly look at the information presented. So it's either going to be informative and interesting, or it's going to be calm and relaxing, or maybe awful. Either way, I really hope that you enjoy the video. Okay, so whilst flicking through this atlas, we're going to learn about lots of different places around the world. We're going to learn some facts. We'll start off with Kenya, and then we'll look at Nigeria and Ghana. I haven't overplanned this video, I just thought it'd be really fun just to look at different pages and we'll talk about the information they present, and I'll mention some things that I've learnt, heard on top of that. When I was planning this video, I saw this and I thought I wanted to do something using this information. So this is Kenya. This is quite helpful for those of you who are not sure where Kenya is. It's this quite large country on the eastern Horn, we call it often. The Horn of Africa, so it's the east of Africa. And we'll be looking at Nigeria and Ghana in a second, which are over there, in the west of Africa. And Africa, of course, being a continent, not a country. In fact, it's an extremely large continent. This one seems to have done it. Oh yeah, I can see why. Locator map. I was about to say that they've got the correct size of Africa when compared to Europe. Because if you look at normal maps, I've talked about this several times before in other videos. But if you look at different types of maps, the majority, let's see if I can find one of the entire world. The majority of them make Africa look quite small compared to Europe. And as I've stated before, the reason behind this being that the world is round. Although some people will negate that fact. Italia. And as such, it's difficult to get everything in the correct proportion. And what tends to happen is the northern hemisphere looks a bit bigger. Or should I say, the southern hemisphere looks a bit smaller. The result of this is that South America, particularly Brazil, the whole of Africa and Australia look way smaller than they are. In reality, the Locator map changes the aspect ratio, I suppose, and makes it look more true to life, as it should do compared to Northern Hemisphere. So then, if you look at a Locator map, Africa looks enormous, which it is. I think an atlas would have a picture of the entire world, wouldn't it? See what I mean? So in this, Europe looks really quite small. Looks like it'll fit into West Africa. And equally, you can see the true size of Brazil when compared to the United States and China. And then also you can see how large Australia is when also compared to the United States, with which it's kind of not as big obviously, but comparable. If you look at this version here, you can see again the size of Africa. So that's Kenya. There's a lot of information to people who aren't familiar with looking at maps. Let's talk about it for a second to make it really clear. So, the bold red line is the political border. In addition, we have this different design, the checkered line. This is, well, it says here, an administrative boundary. What I interpret that to mean is it's a disputed border. This is quite common around the world. Maybe people in Britain or Australia or Canada and the US watching this won't familiarise yourselves with, or maybe you should familiarise yourselves with this. It's basically where one or more countries argue over where the actual boundaries are. It's fairly common in certain countries, one of which, well, not countries but places in the world, one of which is Africa, because Africa's borders, modern day borders, they're relatively new and they were drawn up by the countries that were colonising them. So France, Portugal, Britain, Spain to a little extent, Italy. So yeah, they're not historical borders, they didn't have such things. So the concept of borders in Africa is, and around the world obviously, is a relatively new invention from the previous century. We can see here Kenya's location in East Africa. Somalia is to the east, Ethiopia is to the north, a massive country with a huge population. Tanzania, and we can see the Serengeti plain there. Some of you will be familiar if you are fans of The Lion King, for example. I think that takes place in the Serengeti. And you've got Lake Victoria here, and that's in Uganda. So then we have South Sudan, one of the newest countries in the world here, which broke away from Sudan, not North Sudan. And we have keys here. So, for example, the colours going up to a brighter, almost red, orangey colour. That's a peak, so over 4,000 meters above sea level, whereas the green here is around 0 to 200 meters above sea level. So obviously the coast there is closer to sea level. And over here is a mountainous region. Oh my god, there's a place called Aberdare Range. Aberdare is in South Wales. There are lots of, because of colonialism, there are lots of names such as Lake Victoria, which is Queen Victoria, named after. And then you've got all these different colours. These are cities, and it also tells you information about how populated the city is. We're in a bit of a storm at the moment in Wales, so apologies if you can hear the weather outside. Just started to kick off. rain and wind. So these dots are under 1 million inhabitants, but the larger dots, like for Nairobi, is between 1 million and 5 million inhabitants. And then there's a square which we don't have because this area isn't as highly populated as, for example, Ethiopia, Egypt and Nigeria, the three largest in terms of population within Africa. Kenya is more densely populated because you actually quite a lot of cities are in this region, curiously not over here on the plains. Maybe it's because it's a floodplain, because all these rivers. And what else do I want to point out? Capitals have an underline. So Nairobi is the capital of Kenya. And we can see, where's Tanzania's isn't on here, I think it's down here somewhere. Uganda's Kampala. And again, South Sudan, Ethiopia and Somalia are out of shot. Yes, that's some information for you. Oh, Mombasa is on the coast though, that is quite a large city. And there's some more info down the bottom here. We can see conservation, national parks, game reserves in the Masai Mara. There's a lot of, maybe that's why there aren't so many cities down here, because there's a lot of conservation areas. And this orange colour, what's that for? Dry bush with trees. Yeah, I associate Kenya with safaris. Poor grass, thorns, sand and bare rock. But then this area, where it's higher, mountain, forest and grassland. Okay. And the yellow, tall grass with scattered trees near Mount Elgon. This is helpful. Population density, the number of people per square kilometre. So you can see there and there, that's where Nairobi is, I believe. And that is where Kakamega is. And Mombasa on the coast. But we can see there, not so much. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, the equator runs right the way through. So what that usually means is there are consistent temperatures year round. They will have maybe a rainy season and a less rainy season. But in general, temperatures don't dip and they don't have, a winter as such. And certainly they don't have 4 seasons, as no country on the equator would have that. At least to my knowledge. I was asking my Colombian friend about it, and she was explaining to me what it's like to live on the equator where she grew up. She's from Barranquilla, which of course very famously is where Shakira is from. Okay, and then you've got Nigeria and Ghana. Nigeria is very important because it has one of the fastest growing populations on the planet and is also the most populated country already in Africa. So we have Lagos, which is a square, so that means it's over 5 million, but that's not the capital. Abuja is here, which has fewer than 5 million, it's between 1 and 5. Benin City, loads of really large cities. Ogbomoso, Kano, Uyo Aba, Port Harcourt. And this is, we'll learn more about it in a second, but this is the delta. You can see quite a few rivers coming in and then more branching off. This amazing coastline, the Niger Delta. We can see when we compare it to Kenya, we can see Kenya's got a lot more height, the peaks, compared to Nigeria, which is closer to sea level. Lots of water running through as well. The Joss Plateau, I think, is the highest point. It's not even higher than 2,000. And then you got Ghana to the left hand side. So got Benin here and Togo. But then Ghana here, again, lots of water. Lots of lowland. But we got this near Kumasi mountainous region here. So it's got information. This is a close-up of the Niger Delta. It says satellite imagery helps to plan the drilling for oil and gas in the delta and to monitor the effect of the drilling on this fragile environment. This is a false color image which shows vegetation such as mangrove swamps in dark red. As you can see, very much there. Heavy population there, mangrove forest. And then you got this map here. Oil and gas in the Niger Delta, so oil fields in green, like there near Equatorial Guinea. And also here, just north of Port. Is it? Court. Oil pipelines, lots of those. Tanker terminals, there. Gas pipelines. West Africa gas pipeline to Ghana, Benin and Togo. And then oil refineries, where are they? There, I think. The other countries surrounding Nigeria, we talked about Benin and Togo. Then you've got Burkina Faso, got Niger, and then we've got here, this is Cameroon. Yaoundé is the capital. Douala, another large city. And then here, this island, it's a bit of a weird one. So this is Equatorial Guinea. And if I remember correctly, the other part of Equatorial Guinea is just about there. So it's an island where the capital is Rey Malabo. And then there's a small part here. So you can find it. Yeah, there we go. So Equatorial Guinea has this section here, just the south of Cameroon. But then the island there, which is where the actual capital is, not on the mainland. Highly unusual. I like this aspect. This is, you can see this is a British made. Where's this? Philips. Oh, it's Dutch then. Essential School Atlas. But it's made for the British educational system. Ah, yeah, through the Royal Geographical Society. Because it focuses a lot on Britain and the British Isles. And so you have this on many parts of the Atlas scale comparison map. So this is Wales, England, and southern Scotland. Not sure why they cut Scotland off, but this is Welsh. See, Little Wales. I think Eswatini and Lesotho are about the size of Wales. Everything else is ginormous. This is also adding to what I was talking about earlier on. This is the Locator map of the world. So this is one side of the planet, obviously. And that's Europe there, tiny. this. The rest of it is all Africa. Because when you look at the planet from space, it's mostly Africa that you can see. Europe is tiny in comparison. This is an interesting one. Oh, I think I'm going to save. Oh, I'll do a little bit of it now. I'm going to do a video on this shortly, I think. Or maybe I did it already. I forget what I've done. So this is the European Union. And it says when each nation joined, so founding members in red, that'll be, no, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, at the time it was West Germany, France and Italy. And then joined in 1973, that would be Denmark and Ireland by the looks of it. Although I don't know why they chose such a similar colour, it's difficult to read. Joined in 1981, Greece, looks like, just by themselves. Joined in 1986, that would be Spain and Portugal. Oh, that's helpful, it shows who uses the euro as well. Come back to that. Joined in 1990, that was Germany's unification, so they didn't actually join, they became part of Germany, which was already a founding member. Joined in 1995, so that's Sweden and Finland and Austria. Joined in 2004, Czechia, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia and Poland. Joined in 2007, Romania, Bulgaria, and 2013 would be Croatia. Oh, I missed Cyprus, sorry. They joined in 2004 as well. Obviously this is fairly up to date because it represents the fact that Great Britain, the United Kingdom, has withdrawn from the European Union there. And then Eurozone with the currency, so Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania are all in the euro, along with the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, Slovakia, are they? I didn't realise. Is that a new thing? France, Spain, Portugal and Ireland. Which means that the ones that are in the Eurozone that don't use the euro. Denmark, Sweden. The United Kingdom didn't in its time. Denmark, Sweden, Poland, Czechia, Hungary, Croatia. I don't think Croatia is, Romania, Bulgaria. Although certain countries, and Cyprus does. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. Oh, and Malta. Sorry, Malta, I totally forgot about you. My bad. Some of these countries is absolutely fine to use the euro in, I believe. And some countries that are not in the euro. I heard, for example, in maybe Kosovo, Montenegro, I think you can use the euro quite freely, for example. And I suppose it's worth mentioning briefly the non-members. So I've talked about the UK. Iceland is a non-member. Norway is a non-member. And smack bang in the middle of it all, Switzerland is a non-member. Switzerland's currency is actually the Swiss franc, which harks back to when France used francs rather than the euro. So if I remember correctly, it was francs, Swiss francs and Belgian francs. Did they have francs in Belgium? I think they did. Let's see if I can remember. Pesetas in Spain. Don't remember Portugal's though. What did they used to have? It's not my memory. I think Ireland had the pound, didn't it? I don't have a clue about Finland's old currency. Germany had the Deutschmark. Would I assume then that Austria had the Austrian Deutschmark? No, that doesn't make any sense. Deutschmark. The mark. Did they have an Austrian mark? Tell me in the comments. Slovenia, well, they would have been part of Yugoslavia at the time. Did they use dinar? Is that the currency they used? Greece's one was very cool. It's the drachma. And I therefore assume it was something similar. Or was it the pound in Cyprus? I'm not sure. And then Italy had the lira. Malta, I'm not sure. Again, it might have been a pound. Cyprus and Malta are British Empire territories, I believe. So that's what I'm assuming. But maybe they had the lira, maybe they had the drachma, I'm not sure. If someone could educate me in the comment section, that would be wonderful. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Let's do with tourism. Over 10%. Tourism receipts as a percentage of gross national income. So Spain, and it says Portugal here as well, Spain welcomes a lot of tourists, and from my research back when I used to be a Spanish teacher, most of those tourists go to not Madrid, the capital, but to Barcelona. So Barcelona is the most visited place in Spain, but it's not the most visited city in Europe, or in fact the world, which I believe goes to Paris. So although it doesn't actually affect their GDP or their GNI, gross national income, as much as it does these other countries, Paris does welcome, I believe, if I remember correctly, the most tourists of any country in the world. And it seems that Croatia have been affected by tourism, and Albania apparently. Quite shocked at that. Iceland, yeah, I'm not shocked at that. And this one's a very interesting one. So in terms of wealth, the UK has gone down in wealth. It's not in the top bracket. I'm not even going to go into that. But in terms of wealth, over $50,000 per person, the value of total production divided by population. Alright, okay, so it's not like who's the wealthiest in general, or who has the most. I wonder how accurate this data is then, because if you have a larger population, I suppose it's an average, right? Because the countries with the largest population tend to be lower, but those with the smaller population tend to be higher. But equally, I'm not shocked about this one here. Do you know what country that is? You can barely see it. Luxembourg. Luxembourg welcomes a lot of millionaires, as does San Marino, but San Marino doesn't seem to be listed there for some reason. So yeah, Luxembourg, but the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, Ireland, Austria, Switzerland are in the top bracket. I was really shocked when I learned this, but actually there's quite a lot of issues of poverty in Portugal, and a lot of people, since they joined the European Union, go to work in other countries. There are lots of Portuguese people, for example, in Germany and France. When I visited Portugal and stayed there for a couple of weeks, I was really shocked how cheap everything was, how inexpensive everything was. And when I asked about it, when I asked the local person, I said, oh, why is everything so cheap here? Why is it so cheap to eat out and all that sort of stuff? And they said, it's because people don't earn that much money, so it's expensive to them. So, yeah, Portugal, you just imagine it's got the same sort of economical, or in the same economical situation as the other Western European countries, but it doesn't. And it's a wonderful place, highly recommended. So wealthiest country, Switzerland, with 85,000 US dollars per person. Norway second, Luxembourg is third. Poorest countries, Ukraine is top, with only 3,370 dollars per person. Moldova, and then Kosovo bottom. I was talking about Brazil earlier on. Brazil, which makes up a massive, it'd be helpful if you could see, a massive portion of South America in general. Again, this is the Locator map, so this is true to scale and how huge South America is in general. And it's worth mentioning that Sao Paulo is one of the most populated cities in the world. It's just here. Rio de Janeiro is also here, but it's not the capital. Brasilia, which has a smaller population, between 1 and 5 million, is the capital. And it was a design city. So the government wanted to encourage people, because most of the largest population centres are along the coast. So they thought, right, we'll go in, we'll create a city from scratch. They got an architect to design it, and I think something like the plaza is in the shape of an aeroplane or something. So yeah, it's completely built from scratch, and they wanted to move it inland. You always get quiz questions about Rio. What's the capital of Brazil? It's one of those ones that people get wrong, because it was the capital at one point. But it isn't anymore, and it is a larger city than Brasilia, but not as big as Sao Paulo. Other countries you get that question for are Turkey and Australia. People often think of the larger city. So, in the case of Turkey, let's see if I can find it. Turkey's capital is not Istanbul, like a lot of people think it's going to be. It's Ankara. Here we go. Turkey's here. Ankara is the capital, but Istanbul here used to be the capital back in the days before it was Turkey. I believe when it was the Eastern Roman Empire, is it? Is that the name of it? And Istanbul was not called Istanbul. I can't remember the name of it now, off the top of my head. Oh, that's going to bother me. Constantinople. Got there in the end. So Brazil, you can see the Amazon, which actually keeps going and goes into the neighbouring countries. Peru, so the Amazon does run through Peru, and subsidiaries of it passes through Colombia, perhaps even Venezuela, Bolivia. It affects, it's basically like the heartbeat of the entire continent. And But even then, it's not the longest river in the world. That honour goes to the Nile, which reaches the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt. So the Amazon is the second largest in the world. I don't actually know the third. If you want to tell me in a comment, that would be awesome. Is it the Danube? Don't think it is, but maybe it's the Yellow River in China. Let me know. So, population density is what I was saying. So the new capital is there. You can see how they just wanted to draw people from the coast inwards as population becomes incredibly dense in this region, for example, where we've got Rio, Sao Paulo, etc. Belo Horizonte is another massive city. Porto Alegre, Florianopolis, down here. And then up here, so we've got Salvador, which would be there, and Recife, which is smack bang in that red part there. Recife, João Pessoa, Natal, Marcelo, Aracaju. So this is another highly populated area, Fortaleza. But unsurprisingly, people don't tend to live in large settlements other than Manaus on the Amazon River. And then we've got the Arctic and Antarctica. Okay, so things to dispel for your pub quiz. The Arctic is not a continent, whereas Antarctica is a continent. And at one point would have housed life, because it wasn't always this far south. It was actually more up towards like Africa. However, it's not a country, and although countries have put outposts and claim certain sections, it's a bit complicated. They don't actually really own it. No one owns Antarctica. The other fun fact I think might be correct is that technically, because it doesn't rain, Antarctica is the world's largest desert. Now, that's the definition of a desert, whether it rains or not whether it's hot. So although the Sahara in North Africa is often considered to be a desert, and also you've got a desert here, the Gobi Desert. Saudi Arabia's desert as well. So despite those facts, I think it might actually be the largest desert on Earth. And it's got this beautiful shape to it with a peninsula coming out. So these are not part of the continents. The continent goes like that and comes in. These are actually ice shelves. So Beckna Island is an island, but you could potentially walk to it in the winter months. Maybe all year round, I'm not sure. Most of the other ice shelves are on the coast. Many of them I understand are melting now. That's the Larsen ice shelf. I was watching a video on this sort of thing the other day. Where the ice shelves are, you can see evidence of them melting. And there's the South Pole in the centre. And there's a mountain range. island is called the Tierra del Fuego, the Land of Fire. Cape Horn. And this is Drake Passage. That's one of the reasons that the Panama Canal was created, because for ships to go all the way south, this sea here is very, very dangerous. And so ships wanted to get around to the Pacific Ocean easier. Take less time, obviously, but also this was very dangerous, because you are travelling right near Antarctica to get there. So the Arctic is more of an ocean. So the North Pole is here, but obviously there's no land. There will be ice though. So you could potentially, get on the ice and walk, drive, etc. But there's no land underneath that ice. However, this is Canada, this is Greenland, which is a part of Denmark. So this is the Arctic Circle. This is part of Norway, Svalbard. And then these are parts of Russia, Severnaya Zemlya, and France, Jossetland. So Canada, Denmark, through Greenland, Norway and Russia have land masses in the Arctic Circle. I'm just going to leave it there. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, click like. It helps to tell YouTube to share it to a new audience. That would be a massive help to me, so thank you. And drop me a comment. Give me some facts, correct anything I've misunderstood. Remember, this is all from my knowledge, my memory, so I might not get it right. And if I've misinterpreted something from the map, then correct me. I want to be corrected if I get stuff wrong, so please don't hold back. And if you want me to do a video like this again because you really enjoyed it, and you want to see me go through the rest of the atlas, then leave me a comment and let me know. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope that you are nice and relaxed, but also you feel informed. Big thank you to this atlas as well. And a massive big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, who get to see these videos a week early. Welcome to quite a few of you who joined over the Christmas period, holiday period. Thank you, welcome. And a big hi to everyone else who's been around. And I've got a tier system, but all the tiers get the same, so you can pay the bottom tier and still get all of the perks. It's an extra video per month of just me talking. And from this month onwards, I'm going to do an extra map video that I will never release on this channel. It'll be just for Patreon. And if that becomes a popularity and people start joining the platform, I'll consider doing more a month. I'd love to get to one a week.